Hiya, welcome to GH Policy Pulse. In today's session, I'm going to take you through 24 critical questions that I have developed for social policy. In developing social policy or implementing a public policy or social policy, you need to understand a certain dynamics. You need to sharpen the critical thinking of the populace, of the population, of the legislators, and even the policymakers. And so these questions that I have developed is going to enlighten us about how to be able to come out with a policy that will resonate with the people. Okay, and I have developed these questions around 5 letters. These letters I term them as the 5 W's and 1 H. 5 W's and 1 H. And so the W's are who, the what, the where, the when, and the why. Hello. The W's are the what, the where, the when, the where, and the why. And the single H is how. Just as a journalist, we want to write a story, and that story must be able to speak to who, must speak about what happened, must speak about the where, must speak about the why, the or, and then must also talk about who. In a lead, in writing a story, you must have one of these in your story. This same applies to social policy. But within the social policy, you must have all the why. Unlike the journalist writing a story, that one of these must be able to tell the lead of the story. But in totality, the story will come out with this 5 W and 1 H. This same thing applies to social policy. And so I'm going to take you through a journey of 24 questions that needs to help us in sharpening our critical thinkings around social policy. And so if we are not able to understand it, if the policy is not able to answer these questions, then there is something wrong that we need as a country go back and revisit. So my first W that I'm going to talk about in this session is who. Hello? Who? So the who, I have 4 questions under the who. So the first who is who benefit from this policy that we are developing or we are implementing. Who benefit from this policy that we are developing or we are implementing. Hello, this is GH Policy Pulse. And so when I say who, for instance, in Ghana, I spoke about LEAP the last time. When you talk about LEAP, who are the people benefiting? If you take about the LEAP in Ghana, the LEAP program, which is a cash transfer, it has a target. It targets section of the population. Okay, it's the targeting policy, social policy. We target a certain group of the population, not the entire populace. Okay, by which we take the NHIS, which is also a social protection program, which is a social policy program. Its target is every resident in Ghana. So that is the difference. So who is this? Who is going to benefit from this policy that we are going to implement? The second who, that as a policymaker, you must know is who is affected if this goes wrong. If this policy that we are trying to implement, if it goes wrong, who will be affected? So let me take the NHIS again. I love to talk about NHIS, but I keep saying it is the heart. It is in my heart. It's like my soul and body. And so I like using it. I like to talk about it. Let's take the NHIS again. If something should go wrong with the NHIS policy in Ghana, who will be affected? Straight answer will say Ghanaians. Straight answer will be residents. But the most people that will be affected are the vulnerables. Those corporal. When you say corporal in Ghana, if you get any NHIS documents, read about it. It will tell you that those who cannot afford a day's square meal, these are the people. They call them corporal. The people can't even afford to feed themselves, not alone to feed their children. They are the most vulnerable people. Those with chronic disease who cannot afford to pay their hospital bills. So if something should go wrong with that policy, my God, there'll be a lot of mess. The question we should ask again about who is missing from this conversation of policy implementation or policy initiation or policy development? Who is missing? That is the exclusion. We've included those who are going to benefit. That is inclusion. Those who are going to be missing are the exclusion. Who are the people we've excluded? Let me take the Ghana NHIS again. Hello. The policy says all residents. So if the policy says all residents, the question is, if I'm not a Ghanaian, am I included? That is a question to be answered another day. And the last who that I'm talking about today, who has solved a similar problem that we've identified because that is why we are implementing this policy before with this policy. So if you are trying to bring a policy, social policy is not a test case. Why you need to test it on people. If you are testing it, you must pilot it before rolling it out. So who has benefited or which country? Okay, so the who has solved this problem. So if I'm initiating or I'm trying to introduce this policy, I must look at who has solved a problem with the same policy I'm trying to implement. Let me take the NHIS again. If you take NHIS Ghana, it did not come out of the blue. I said in one of the videos that before the Europeans came to Ghana, there was a social policy, there was a social health insurance. And I explained that in the olden days, health was treated as a free commodity because we have traditional healers in our homes, in our communities, that when you are sick, all that you need to think about is to seek for your healing, because it was based on risk sharing and solidarity. Hello? And so all that you need to think about is getting healed, and then when you are healed, you find a way to say thank you with your farm produce, either animal that you have or words of the mouth. Until the Europeans came and introduced a modern social health insurance, and even that was for the employees of the Europeans and the Europeans themselves. It was not entirely for Africans. It was not entirely for Ghanaians. That is when the cash and carry scheme because the government, people have to pay for modern healthcare. We no longer want to subscribe or ascribe to our system of healthcare then. So there was, yes, before NHIS came to Ghana, there was health insurance in European countries. But their system is entirely different from our system. Why? Because we have informal sector, a very large informal sector. 70 to 80% of our populace are from in some informal sector. So our own, I keep saying the day that I will talk deep into NHIS, you will love the concept of Ghana NHIS. Ours is a brand model, a unique one. But today, I am telling you that in social policy, you must have these 5 W and 1 H to be able to sharpen our critical thinking around the policy. And I've just taken you through 1 W, which is who. Okay? I said, who benefits from this policy? Who will be affected if something goes wrong with this policy? Who is missing or will be missing from the implementation of this policy? Who has solved a similar problem that we've identified while we want to introduce the policy? See you in my next video, where we will talk about when the policy can be implemented or needs to be implemented. I am your community servant, Akosia. Please subscribe to GH Policy Pulse and you will love what we are bringing on board. We are apolitical. Love you.